back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47. Time for us to take a look at the headlines this morning. I'm privileged to have in studio Wilson Sossion, a former SG, Secretary General of the KNUT, that's the Kenya National Union of Teachers, and also a former member of the National Assembly. Karibu sana TV47.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning.
Yes, the last time you were in studio, we were talking about the teachers' strike. And I think the same day you came, I think a day before, the KNUT had called off the strike, but KUPPET was still on the streets. As we speak right now, KUPPET also called off the strike, but the discussion this whole week has been about whether or not teachers actually got what they were looking for. Many teachers have also criticized their union officials, especially in KUPPET, for probably giving in to the TSC's demands for them to return to work. And one wonders, you've been a union official. How easy is it to conduct such an industrial action?
Even to sustain an industrial action for 1 hour is not simple. To plan, to organize, to withdraw labor, to communicate, to sustain the commitment of members in strike action is no mean business. A lot of it goes into it. Even how to end it. Ending it is another nightmare for union leaders. You can start a strike, but you find it very difficult to end. And you must end it in a manner. This is how industrial relations are framed. End it in a manner that workers are happy, a win-win. Workers are happy, and the employer is also satisfied. Looking at this strike, this industrial action, I still blame TSC for running the poorest and the worst industrial relations practices ever witnessed anywhere. Yeah, because I think the president tried and the government has tried based on a number of grievances. If we can tick the boxes on the matrices, on the demands of teachers. Number one was reinstatement of 13 billion to serve as the second phase of the CBA, the 2-year CBA that started last year, which the president directed during the winners' concert in Eldoret, that money be availed so that the commitment made to teachers can be honored by the government. That was a presidential directive. And that knocked off the first major challenge that was on the demands. And maybe that is what informed KNUT not to proceed with the strike. Then number two, the conversion of 46,000 teachers to PNP, which the president also gave a directive. And remember, the employment of teachers is a major flagship of Kenya Kwanza administration, flowing from the education charter and its manifesto. So it's the president's own agenda, commitment to turn around quality education by availing teachers in all the classrooms. So the president gave that assurance. And all these teachers will be converted from January 2025, all of them. So that knocks off the second item. The other items that of contention, of course, was reinstatement of the budgetary allocation to the medical scheme, which has been reinstated. And then the other item was promotion. What remained on the table was promotion of teachers, and it remains extremely contentious even up to now, and the use of tools called career progression guidelines, which are not approved by parliament. They're illegal. And teachers have been ostracized. But then a lot of other issues have come up about the general management of teachers and the highlights of corruption at the Teacher Service Commission, that for you to get a transfer, you must pay. For you to be promoted, you must pay, and pay as much as 150,000. For you to be employed, yes,
to pay or bribe.
Yes, to bribe.
Okay,
you must bribe. For you to be employed, for a primary school teacher, you pay about 350,000 shillings, and for a graduate teacher to be employed is 500,000. So that then, even with respect to employment, there is no more competitive recruitment and the equal opportunity employment process that TSC as practiced over the years. So a lot of things have come out about the general management of teachers.
You blame the TSC
really
a lot, but there's a lot of
TSC.
flack being directed towards the union leadership. And it happened immediately after KNUT called off the strike, and also happened immediately after KUPPET called off the strike. Do you agree with that kind of criticism towards union leadership?
Now, the state of the unions, the state of the unions, they are the way they are because they've been crippled by the employer over time. They've been crippled by the employer. You see, when an employer decides to use imperial methods of engaging in labor relations, like switching off union dues, and you know, when you threaten a union that the checkoff will not be operational, and it is not a threat, they've done it. In 2015, when I led a 36-day nationwide strike, the checkoff was put off for 9 months. And I ran the union for 9 months without union dues.
Without any funding?
Yes, without any funding. And in 2019, when the Employment and Labor Relations Court, the current principal judge, Byram Mongaya, gave a ruling on 5 issues against the Teacher Service Commission that included the career progression guidelines, the union dues were immediately switched off to zero for a cool 36 months. And I had to run the union for 36 months without union dues. So really, the fear of union leaders...
You did not get any redress from the courts?
Of course, there were court orders and they defied. This defiance of court orders is not a new thing. The practice of impunity by state officers is not a new thing. And the impunity stings to high heavens at the Teacher Service Commission. And that was switched off for about that 6 months. So when union leaders, in fact, I didn't expect the unions in the teaching service to really come out with the real threats of strike and actually mount the strike actions because of the devastating damage that the employer would actually really do, like switching off union dues and using courts to criminalize their actions. And this, of course, contributes very massively to the organizing power and organizing freedom of teachers. And let me tell you, strike actions should not be seen as criminal activities of workers. They are methods that unions and workers use to express themselves. And employers that are proactive and who engage in meaningfully unlocking the stalemates, meaningfully resolving the issues at the table, will have their workers return to work when they're happy and more productive. And in this case, handling teachers to go back to class should have been done in a more orderly way. I expected unions to have invoked their organs in taking those key decisions and communicating to their members and agreeing with their members. And once they agree with their members, then we would be very sure the teachers will return to class when they're happy and when their morale is high. We don't just need the teachers in class. We need their hearts and we need their morales. We need their motivation to teach. And particularly, if you look at the actions of the president, because on behalf of government, he facilitated the major solutions to the key challenges. That is one, availing money to finance the CBA. That was the best the president could do. Availing money to hire more teachers and availing money to ensure that the medical cover runs fully in a fully funded level. But then all these other things, challenges, points to the systematic internal weaknesses of the Teacher Service Commission, which I think it is a matter that parliamentarians and other institutions may have to look at, because we cannot retain 400,000 workers under the teaching service who are mismanaged to the detriment of education, and to the point that the global competitiveness ranking of Kenya in terms of delivery of quality education and access to education has dropped for the last 10 years.
And as we continue this conversation, I'd like to welcome MP David Kiplagat of Soi to just join us on set and be part of this conversation as well. So going forward, Bwana Sossion, with that threat of withholding the union dues, Do you see the unions being as effective as they were before? Because now you say, yes, you got court orders, they're being defied by TSC. Union dues can be denied to the unions at will.
I don't think we are running. You know, the withholding of union dues is a weapon that Jubilee administration used. Mm-hmm. And Kenya Kwanza administration, I don't think, and I am not aware.
Well, if it's happening now.
No, it's not. It's an action that TSC has executed itself, but I don't think it is something that Kenya Kwanza administration is going to execute, and particularly the president and the government, because we believe in free and independent institutions to operate, to do their work. If unions have issues, let them operate freely and operate within the law. And I don't think Kenya is a banana state that is going to, the Kenya Kwanza administration is going to adopt imperial method that Jubilee
these things are happening on the
busting unions.
Talking about defiance of court orders and legal directives, even away from matters education, it is the front page of the Daily Nation today, and it talks about the police service and the impunity that's there as well. Acting Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli has snapped court orders 6 times over the disappearance of 3 men, joining the list of government officials, so it's actually out there, who are defying legal directives, including on handling of protesters and cessation of abductions. Bwana Soi, karibu sana to TV47. We're just talking about matters education because, you know, of course, when it comes to Bwana Sossion, they're very close to his heart. And we started from there. And he says that the TSC has been known, the Teacher Service Commission has been known to continuously defy court orders in matters when it comes to dealing with unions. But we're seeing that kind of behavior is not just with the TSC, it's also prevalent even in the police service, where the acting police IG can defy court orders, can defy court summons 6 times. There's only one word for the big headline on the Daily Nation: impunity. Do you agree that yes, some government institutions are operating in impunity?
Good morning to our viewers. On what you are raising about the impunity and defying court orders, I think those are, it's not a government policy. So the government should not brandish for individual responsibility. So from where I'm standing, I believe whoever is defying court order should take that individual responsibility. And at nowhere has there been a discussion that government officials should be able to defy court orders. And I believe any deficiency in that matter, the law is very clear on what action the court can take for anyone who has defied court orders. So let us move it from taking it as if it is a collective responsibility that the government has decided that government officials should defy court orders. Looking at the TSC, I think the issue has been sorted amicably. I saw the unions have called off the strike, which is in good faith. It's only that I was a bit astonished that when the students were being sent home, at that point the strike was being called off. Then you ask yourself, was there no prior information that the union will call off the strike so that we don't inconvenience the child in the midway? So I believe there should be a better mechanism of handling the issue. The problem actually lies with the exchequer and the resource envelope that we have. Sometimes we budget, but we find out that due to other exigencies, like now the fall of finance bill, now you go back to 2023, but on the perspective of budgeting and promotion for the teachers, I believe it was well-meaning. The collective agreement that had been signed was actually in good faith, but because of deficiencies in terms of what the government could be able to collect, then there is that always challenge that result in the industrial action. But let us all understand, for the issue of the police service, the police service usually say they are independent, so it's upon the acting IG to tell us why he's defying the court order. So,
Okay.
but it is not what I just wanted to make it clear.
Yeah.
It is not the government policy
Yes.
or any discussion that government officials should deny.
I remember the Jubilee administration was criticized over the same thing, that defiance of court orders was quite prevalent during that time. And the president said that his administration will strictly adhere to the rule of law and court orders will not be defied. He's pronounced himself on this matter.
And true. There have been very many court judgments that have been returned against decisions of the president. And the president has complied in totality with all of them. And you know this. And the president has said very clearly, we must be a country governed by the rule of law. And the president also gave the accounting powers to the Inspector General of Police. It's an independent entity, the police service of this country. And therefore, they're accountable to their own actions. Of course, if somebody has defied court orders 6 times, you must tell the country why you are doing that, because we cannot promote impunity in the country and even in public offices. And this will lead to lawlessness. What if all government officers are not complying with orders of the court? I don't think this is the right thing to do. Many of us experienced painful experiences of non-compliance with court orders during Jubilee administration. It should not happen in this administration, and therefore, I think the Inspector General has been called out. Let the courts deal with him individually and explain to the country why is not complying. Okay. Yeah, because as Mheshimiwa said here, individual action should not be construed.
So this is individual.
Government action, it's purely individual. Yeah, because when you are summoned as an individual, and you can appear in person or through a lawyer. There is no reason why you cannot appear in a court of law. You should.
Maybe just to throw a spanner in the works. I don't work in the police service myself, but I was thinking that because cases are individualistic in nature, and given that the person who has actually been supposed to appear in court is actually the Inspector General, and given Parliament is in the process of vetting and approving the new Inspector General. So maybe the acting Inspector General.
If you're acting, you're acting all the way.
I don't know. Maybe just taking as an example, that, maybe your predecessor has been sued. Then somebody tells you to go to court. So sometimes maybe he's waiting. I don't know what communication he has communicated to.
When the order is taken to the desk of the IG of police, whoever is acting or sitting on that desk is.
You know, sometimes, may I finish? Sometimes there's action that cannot be taken by you on an acting capacity. Sometimes you cannot take all the things.
Attending to court?
Including now attending to court, which is individualistic. So I don't know.
I think, I agree with that, really.
I'm not taking divergent opinion nor bastardizing the views of Mheshimiwa. But once you are in an acting capacity in an office, you are responsible for everything, completely. And the courts will not do general summons. The summon will not be Inspector General of Police. It will always be specific with the name, Acting Inspector General of Police, by name. Okay. You will always be summoned. I think let us generally agree. If it is a rule of law, it is a rule of law with no exceptions. Okay. If you are summoned, you appear. Yeah. Okay. You appear.
If you look at the headline on the Standard today, it takes a different but still angle that linked to this government action. But here they talk about seeing no evil, hearing no evil. When state sees no evil, hears no evil, and they say they're sleeping on the job. From Shakahola cult massacre to Kware murders and the bungled response to Gen Z's anti-finance protest bill, President Ruto's administration has in the recent past been caught napping in a number of incidents. Some say the government should have done better. Bwana Kiplagat, do you agree with this assessment that yes, a lot has been happening, and I don't know if it's failure by the government to communicate or what exactly it could be, but the general feeling is that the government would have done something in some of these instances. It did not.
Okay, I believe it is the work of government to ensure that there is security, and whenever there is a security lapse, then I think the responsibility lies on the government. So that's a responsibility that I believe the government should have done better. I believe in all these things that have happened, including the Shakahola, including the murders in Kware. I don't know about the Gen Zs and the anti-finance bill protest. I think the government was really constrained in terms of...
were they caught flat-footed? Or were they sleeping on the job? They didn't know.
No.
They hold the instruments of state, including intelligence.
I believe the police service should critically look at their functionality and be able to improve. With all these problems that is happening in terms of the security sectors, then it is upon now that we are having a new IG, and I believe the predecessor resigned because he wasn't unable to handle the docket. So I believe the new IG will be up to the task. The first thing is to do a dichotomous on actually what is happening in the police service, so that they can be able to improve in terms of the security of Kenyans, in terms of ensuring that they can be able to handle issues before they are got off guard. So let us say that there have been weaknesses in the police service, but now that the new IG is coming in, so we believe that with the experience that he has, he is able to handle all these issues. But from where I'm standing, the police should do better.
Okay, just like the education sector, and there's a lot that can be said about this administration's handling of the education sector, many questions too arise about its handling of security matters.
Yeah, I think handling of the security sector has a very bad history. That's a fact, stemming from previous administration. Do you remember Rivayala bodies that were being removed?
There's one more body that was recovered last week from the same river.
Yes, that was extrajudicial killing executed by our own police forces. That's a fact, we know. And the Shakahola, it happened way back. It was only uncovered by this administration at its early years. And do you know how many people have died in Shakahola? And it's through a church that is known publicly, and it operates was operating within the jurisdiction manned by our own security apparatus. We've seen the bodies at Kware, and the victim, who had actually been nabbed and was in police custody, we are told escaped with some Eritreans from the hands of the police. To date, they've not been brought to, not been rearrested. I think these are
the abductions that we keep talking about every day, featuring on the front page of the Daily Nation.
Yeah, of course. And the president has said this country is not going to proceed any further with any form of extrajudicial killings. You don't need to kill a human being to achieve what you want. And the president is very emphatic about it. Why we should still see some traces, it defeats logics. And this is where the security apparatus itself has to overhaul itself, and it has to be examined. It must be accountable to Kenyans. We don't need to lose any life for whatever reasons. Looking at the mass from extrajudicial in Rivayala to Shakahola, to the bodies that were retrieved from quarries, should we really continue experiencing such? We should not. And I think this administration was able to unearth Shakahola, or it was able to unearth the quarry and several others. We don't need to hide. These are not things to hide.
But when we talk about the independence of the police.
And that is why the president was very emphatic in allowing it to be independent and giving it its own resources so that they can do that. Now, the police should account to Kenyans what they are doing.
The best instrument for accountability
because
we have right now is the National Assembly.
How did this suspect of Kwari escape from police custody? How?
Okay.
How? Because it's like Kenyans, we've kept quiet. Even you media, you've kept quiet. I expected you to go and come and film exactly where that guy was inside the cells and the route that was used and where the police were. I expect the media to even be more serious in this particular case and pile pressure on the police to tell us exactly. Because this points out to an inside job where a lot of money could have changed hands so that such criminals could actually escape from the custody of the police. And this brings to question the efficiency of our police and security apparatus in providing security to Kenyans.
Time for us to take
the president has given directive.
Yes.
Why are they not implementing?
Police and the entire handling of the security sector put to question. The IG is on the spot for ignoring and defying court orders. Meanwhile, there are serious concerns about the general handling of the security sector across this country. Let's take a break. You're watching Morning Cafe. We'll be back to take a look at more headlines.